Good afternoon. Right, so what is it with tradespeople that you can get them out if you're lucky to get you a quote, or give you a quote, but then you can never get them back to actually do the work. So we had a quote for the worktop for replacements, and the first bit that needs to be done is the piece with the sink in it, because that was the piece that was damaged by the fire at the end of October. And guy was supposed to come back and actually do the work about 3 weeks ago, and just didn't bother to turn up. So here we are doing it ourselves. Now I fitted the work surface about 14 years ago, and I've always had issues cutting out the hole for sinks, especially with a jigsaw. So I thought we'd try something different this time. I've found when I cut thicker worktops with a jigsaw that although you're following the line perfectly on the surface, at the bottom underneath the jigsaw has always gone off at a funny angle, and it's always gone the wrong way. So actually when you try to put the sink clips on, there's no wood there to put them on. So I've had a look into this, and I've actually got a Works WRKX version of one of these, but what I didn't look too closely at the time I bought it some years ago is the maximum depth, and of course it does not go deep enough for this 39mm work surface. So I've looked at another one on Amazon, and this is a much bigger version than the one I've had previously. So I thought we'd have a look at this first of all, and then see if it's actually up to the job of cutting out this work surface. As I said, this is another great Chinese name, Meterk. Mini circular saw, model M1Y AC 1802-115, UK version. This will cut, let's have a look, at 90 degrees it will cut 48mm, and at a 45 degree it will cut 32mm. It does have a guide laser, and it's got 6 different blades, 2 of 3 different types. So we've got the button batteries for that, we've got blades for tiles, blades for wood, and blade for soft metal and plastic and wood. Vacuum cleaner adapters, a scale ruler, and an Allen wrench. Not expecting too much from this, but if it gives me a more accurate cut than the jigsaw, then we will be in business. So we have 2 adapters, we've got the guide there, we've got a UK plug, a nice long lead, it's got to be at least 7 foot, and here's the main unit. So I'm hoping that we can do a sort of plunge cut. We'll lift the guard back, rest it on the front, and just bring it down as a plunge cutter. So yeah, big old chunky thing. We've got 2 triggers here, protection system. You can't operate the trigger unless you've depressed the side button first, and only then will that trigger engage. This is a 1-speed only. Adjustable here to the maximum of 48. We're going to be setting it at 40. But I'm just going to get that out of the way for the moment whilst we look at these blades. Actually, I've also got to put in the batteries, which need a screwdriver. Let's grab one. Didn't think about that. I thought it would be a quick release cover of some description. Okay, so a couple of button cells required, which are supplied. Actually, I wonder if we need to take them out of that. No, we don't actually need to take them out of the wrapper that they're in. Just trying to get this back in there, which it won't go. That's it. We'll just put that screw back in. There's just a little on-off switch at the end. No idea whether this will be bright enough. Yeah, a little on-off switch here. You can see the laser there. Let's see. Oh, gosh, it's barely visible on a black surface. It's actually, you can see it lining up, well, you probably won't be able to, but it lines up with a little mark on the metal guide, so it's pretty clear there, but really, yeah, it's not very clear on this black surface. Let me turn the lights out and we'll see if it's any better. Yeah, you know what, honestly, it's not really very good at all. Okay. Right, so let's have a look at the blades. As I said, it's 3 different types, 6 in all. We have 2 here for, well, it says tiles, backer board / cement, whatever backer board is, don't know what that is. We have a wood one, 60 teeth, tungsten carbide tip. And then we have this one, which has got really chunky teeth on it. So might try this one. I should imagine that is the better blade for the task in hand. There is an Allen key just stuck in the end here, and hopefully we can just lift that out of the way. There we go, and get this apart. Right, moving up. No, I'm doing it the wrong way, of course. It's a there we go. Reversed thread. Okay, that is on. This is self-locking as you start it, well, self-tightening rather. Just hold the teeth and nip that up. So there we are, that is installed. The first thing I'm going to do is just quickly cut a piece of wood up, and this piece here. And then I'll just run a piece under each end of the work surface so we don't go chomping through the floor. Now let's look at the end of the vacuum cleaner and see if that fits anything. Well, it's not the best fit ever, it's really loose. Where does that go on here? Okay, so it looks like you need that adapter first, and then this adapter, and then the actual hose pipe. Well, it does just fit, I guess. A little loose. You could put a bit of tape around that if you were inclined to do so. Right, so next thing. And I've put the glasses down somewhere. I can't see them. Hold on. Okay, so we have knee pads, we have special hearing plugs, hearing protectors, we have glasses, safety glasses. What I'm going to do is just chop through that wood first. We'll have the vacuum cleaner on. What I'm going to do is just to try a cut in the centre here, the waist section, just to see if it can cut through the full thickness or not. I'm going to set this to 40 and we'll just try a plunge cut, go from there. Of course, helps if you turn the vacuum cleaner on. Just grab the camera. We've got quite a bit of chipping going on there. Quite a good old chunk taken out there. I'm surprised at that because the blade's rotating the right way. It's going in to the board. Perhaps we've got the wrong blade. So let's go back and change the blade to the other one and we see if we get a better result with a test cut with that. So let's get that over here again. I'm just going to unplug that for a second and we will try the other blade. Certainly powerful enough to go through in one go. Needed to lock those teeth up before we could get that undone. Okay, let's get that out. I'll get that one in. Perhaps using some tape would have helped. Still trying to do that up the wrong way. That's just weird. Okay, let's hold the teeth, lock that up, plug it in, and we'll try another cut. It plugs in. Check what that's looking at. Okay, here we go. Clearly that blade isn't up to very much. I'll cut through it and then stop dead. Mind the chipping. But I think the blade is just not up to it, that particular one. No, definitely not. So that is interesting. So we will have to use the other blade. But that particular one is certainly not up to cutting this. It's hot as well. Ouch. So we'll get the other blade back in there. Yahoo! That is really hot. Now I've got 10mm to play with. That's the amount that the sink cut has to be in from the edge. So as long as we don't cause any massive chips, we should be okay. think we're just going to have to go for it. Oh dear. Let's try that again with the vacuum attached. So it looks like we're just going to have to go over it underneath as well and just see if that will pop out. We could do that with the jigsaw if I could be bothered to go and find it, but let's see what happens when we use this. So, just going to have to get a normal saw just to nip those bits out of the corners. Now, what damage has been done? Let's have a look. The first bit of tape that's on there is the 10mm outline. That's where the sink will end. So yeah, I think we've just got away with that. A couple of chips come out there, but not anywhere near the 10mm line where the sink ends, so I think we're going to get away with that. I will just nip out those corners with the normal saw, and hopefully the sink will drop straight in there. So I don't know whether that's the very best way of doing this. I'm sure a jigsaw with a fine blade, and like I say, I've always found that the blade twists and the cut underneath here is done at an angle. So bad jigsaw, bad user, bad blade, not sure. This was easier for me, although it's not the very finest cut on there. Right, so we'll just trim those up, and we'll be back later. Okay, so we've just dragged the sink in. Interesting story with the sink, bought from B&Q a few years ago. Well, another one exactly the same model as this, and it had been left in its box in our spare room for, like I say, a couple of years. And when we came to open it up, it was actually split straight across here. But it wasn't obvious when it was laying flat in the box. It's only when I grabbed one end of it and half the sink came away that we realised there was a problem. And yeah, I mean, we took it back to B&Q and they were actually great. They swapped it because it was still one they had there. And then they tried to charge us the difference between what we paid for this and the current price, which we had a little whinge about, but they discounted it back to the price we originally paid when it was hugely discounted. What are you doing, you silly girl? Anyway, and I think I know how it got broken. Come on girls, I'm trying to work here. These clips that hold the sink in place, if you have a look, Mia, move away, you've got to drive in these centre plugs. Now I suspect what had happened is somebody had taken it back because they'd actually split the sink in half, because they were probably hammering these in on an uneven surface, or with one end floating, and because that hole is exactly in line here, and obviously with the other hole, and I suspect you've got a lot of weight here, and it just snapped through their hammering. So you're going to have to make sure this is on a flat surface before you knock these pegs in. I did not need to trim out those corners, they are nowhere near in the way. We've got a pretty good fit in there, so quite pleased with that. I've got some sealant where I'm going to smear all the cut areas with silicone sealant. I'm sure there's other methods of sealing the wood, and I may even put a bead around the sink when the sealant has done its job around here. We'll just sink the sink into it on a bead of saline, and then nothing is going to get underneath there. So yeah, quite pleased with that. For the 70 quid the saw cost, it has saved me a lot of aggro with the jigsaw and the potential problems with that. So that's it really for today. The Meterk mini circular saw, absolutely fine. I think we can recommend that. Not really sure about that other blade. That is obviously for very soft wood plastic. Certainly isn't up to the job of this nasty wood chip laminated worktop. That's obviously not what it's for. So big old chip, don't know where that came from. Not from anywhere that matters, fortunately. So job done. Okay, I don't know how we left it yesterday. I think we just cut the hole out. Last night I put some silicone on the ends and down the back. I've taken an old end piece off of the old work surface just to protect the corners. It might be a good idea if you have some thick card or something just to put that, staple it around the corners, just to protect them whilst you're working on this. The hole was cut out and that's absolutely spot on. I have run a bead of silicone all around on the edge of the sink that goes on top of the work surface. These are the fittings, pretty standard, but you do have to hammer in the little centre peg there, and as I mentioned before, I suspect the first one we had, they hammered it in on an uneven surface, probably a little bit too hard, and split it straight the way across there. It just happens to be that two holes line up just there, so I'm pretty certain that's what's happened. So yeah, I hammered all of these in, did them all up tight. There's little prongs on the end which I just hammer gently into the work surface. If I flip it over, the sealant oozed out slightly onto the work surface, which is now cured and I've trimmed off. The next thing, you'll find a almost drilled through hole that side. There's another one that's only partially done there. That's the one I wanted, and you don't drill it out. From the other side of the sink you actually get a punch and a hammer and gently hammer it until it breaks free. That's according to the instructions on this sink. It might have been tempting to drill it out with a hole drill this side, but that's not how to do it. So I have hammered that out, and then I've needed to take a file and I have enlarged the breakout bit so it matches the drilled piece. There was quite a lot of material that they didn't drill through. In fact, you can probably see it there. There's a little bit of a ridge just there where I haven't quite filed it out to match the hole, but that's allowed me to assemble the tap. Pretty standard here. There's a O-ring on there. There's little O-rings on all three pipes, and that hole is big enough to feed one of these through first, then the other one, and then slide down with that. So and then we've got the washer, rubber washer, metal washer, and various other bits just to fasten that on this side. So that's where we are at the moment. Managed to find a few 15mm blanking pieces in one of my old plumbing boxes, because you can pretty much guarantee that I can turn the water off, take the old sink out, and something is going to be missing or doesn't fit, and I won't have the correct pipes or whatever. So it'll probably mean leaving it disconnected for or at least overnight. So I expect to be able to blank off the 15mm hot and cold and leave it overnight if required. So they're at the ready, and that's pretty much it for the moment. So it's all going fine. I expect we'll have some messing around to do with the waste pipes, but we bought a kit from B&Q that's especially for this sink, universal, 1.5 sink kit. So hopefully we can perhaps use all of that, or at least some of the existing waste pipes. So yeah, I'm trying to think of any other tips. Yeah, as I said, just protect the corners of the work surface if you can while you work on it. I have managed to chip aside, just the corner off, just the tiny bit. Absolutely no idea when. I've only been carrying it around and lifting it up in here on carpet, but if I had put some cardboard around it, it would have helped. And just using the old work surface end pieces there would have helped protect it as well. So that's it. Next stage, I'm going to fit the tap and probably the two sink holes into there, and I'm going to fit the overflow that's between the two sinks, and hopefully then it'll all be easy to get at underneath the unit. Okay, so next stage done, and that was getting the tap in, the overflow in, and the two plugs. I'll just show you what I did there. So I installed the tap through the hole with the hot and cold pipes, and this one connected, obviously without the connector here, and the hose for the spray head. And you can see how that does up. There is a rubber washer, the metal washer, a tube in my case, so this was more accessible, and then just do that nut up. What you'll find though is leave this loose and then feed this black spray head pipe through underneath there. You'll find if you do this up, you won't be able to get this through correctly. It's just a little bit too big here, and at the other end it's even bigger at that end of the connector. So once that is fed through, you can reposition the tap and do that collared nut up. There is a heavy weight here. I have just temporarily put that at the lowest point of the loop. There are measurements in the instructions to how far that should be. I suspect we might have an issue with it getting stuck in here, so I may well have to, maybe not actually, just thought that might get caught there, but I don't think so after all. I've connected the overflow. That is just a simple double-sided foam washer. It's sticky both sides, so glued it onto the white plastic there, and held it up to the sink, and then put the bolt through the top, and then it's got a stainless steel cover. I've just loosely assembled these just because it might be easier when the sink is out, and the rest of the plumbing, which is all over there, is going to be pretty easy to do from underneath the sink when it's in situ. But things like all of this is a bit fiddly when you're trying to reach up. So yeah, that is all done. Don't forget all of the washers. We've got mesh washers there, filter washers, and the O-ring, the rubber O-ring there, or the rubber washer rather. There's a washer in here, and there's a washer in there, so just make sure you've got all of your washers in place. And there's a little rubber seal that goes around this as well, which is in place, and that is done up as tight as I can get it by hand. And that is probably it as far as work out of the unit is concerned. Hopefully just remove the old one and lift that into place, and yeah, and then make the connections. So yeah, we'll be back with this over the weekend, I expect.